How's it going, guys? It's McClutters here. Today in Valheim, I'm going to show you how I build a circular style building. So what I like to do is I like to start off with a raised platform. You can skip this step if you actually have a flat piece of terrain. I just like this raised style structure myself personally. Now I am going for a curved style building. It's going to be kind of more of an oval shape than it is going to be a circle, just because I have these two flat pieces. If you want a true circle, you can just skip this step and continue on with the next one here. Now what I'm going to do here is, instead of going straight forward, you're going to click your support beam one to the side, so that way it angles. And here you can see the building structure go red, so that's going to drop off that piece. So I'm going to have to put a support structure down here, just so it's contacted with the ground so I can continue building the circle. I tried messing around getting this larger support beam there. I didn't want it to kind of clip through, so I ended up just going and opting for the one beforehand. But we will continue this circle here. I'm just going to keep going around in this circle, like I said, and alternating and twisting one piece every time. And once I'm done, I did place a few support structures around the whole thing. In order to get the roof to be fully stabilized, you're going to want to put pillars around the entire outside. This also, to me, makes it just look more aesthetically more pleasing. It's at this point that I'm going to start placing in the floor. And one thing I do like to do with this particular build is, since everything's load bearing on the walls, not the floor, make the floor the best bang for your buck. I usually put about 2 deep and then place these little support beams right there, because no matter which side I go off of to build the floor on, it's always just going to be 2 in before it hits that support structure, which keeps it fairly stable because those bottom 4 beams are support structures. Now, continuing on with this, to build off into the center, you're going to do the same thing that you did with the kind of brown portion, is just angle these floor pieces one at a time and build off of the wall there. That way you can have them angle in and get a nice flat even floor. Now you do see some of these smaller gaps where I only placed a handful of the planks. I didn't place all 3, I usually place 2, and that way you can typically use just a smaller 1x1 instead of the 2x2 piece to fill in those little tiny gaps to save you a little bit more wood. Doing it in this structure with those little 2 flat pieces on the edge, it allows me to have that kind of angled circular oval style middle center, so that way I can have 2 fire pits in there if I like, which I'll show that later in the video. If you went for the full circle style build, it'd be one perfect circle in the center, and you could have 1 fire pit right there in the center. And here I'm showing you, you could have the 2 fire pits right there. I'm going to go ahead and fill in these holes right here just so I can easily move around. And one thing I have noticed with this build is you tend to get clipped on these entrance beams, so I usually just break those apart once I'm done building the entire circle. And we'll get started on the wall here in a second. And as you can see here, I just follow along the same curve that I built the rest of the support structure on. Now I do like to opt for the larger wood gates for the entrances. This is why I do the 2 wide, so I can have that double grand entrance door. Now I'm going to add this half wall section, and building up to this height, I like to do this just so you add the extra little ventilation once you put the roof in, so the smoke doesn't damage you when you stay inside the building. Even just standing there, it builds up a little bit on the top. Obviously you can counteract this with a little bit of extra windows, or even just increasing the angle of the roof will help it. Now, I don't go for the 45-degree angle. I go for the slightly lower grade height. And what I do here is I just build up 2 tall around the entirety of the building, just like I did the walls, just like I did the support floors. And an extra building tip, if you angle at the very top of a roof piece or at the side of another one next to it, it allows you to be able to easily snap into it so you can get the best height. I'm just going to continue around the structure here, and the reason why I'm building in these corners is just kind of show you how everything looks next to each other once they're starting to be built up. You can fill in, left to right all the way around the circle. This is just what I'm doing to easily show you, and this is just, in general, my preferred building method to make sure I got every single thing. And once we're done building the roof up here, you'll actually see the very top we have that little oval shape, the same that we had on the floor, to allow that ventilation up perfectly. Now, in order to build a roof piece off of this, it's kind of wonky trying to just throw a roof piece on there. So I like to add these 4 beams right here just to kind of give me a good starting point that I can build up a little bit of a riser or something like that to be able to start on the roof. But there you have it. There's the outside of the structure, kind of like an oval shape, like I said. Now, starting here, I'm going to show you how I build in windows into these buildings. One of the easier things just to do is throw off one of these half walls at the bottom. Leave the top exposed so you have that nice big open bay window. Now, some people like to add this little support beam across. I find take it out is easier just because now you can't jump through the window if you ever want to. Just save time. So I always opt to leave that bar out. One thing you can do to make it look a little bit nicer is you can add in these little angled pieces and just put them over here in the corners. Get out of here, guy. But yeah, if you add in these angle pieces, it just makes it look a little bit more presentable. Also adds kind of like a look of structural integrity. I also add these larger pieces right here in the corners just to kind of look like they're built off of something versus just sitting on the wall. And here's another style of window that I've done before, not necessarily in a building this short, but if you add in a door, you can actually just open it up and allow more ventilation out if you build them a little bit higher up on the ceiling. This is kind of a bad example, but you can kind of just open up kind of like a bay window. You can also do the same thing with the large wood gates, and I'll actually show you here kind of what it looks like. It kind of reminds me of like a shuttered window. You can even use it for like a little murder hole to shoot arrows at, whatever you need to do to defend your small little base here. next window type is very similar to that first one I did with the half walls. But instead of cutting out the top, you're going to leave that top half wall also on and grab some of this fence post. And if you hold down shift, you can actually clip it into the wall. And you can kind of create a little kind of like blinder or something similar to that. Now, I don't use this one very often. This is something I also recently learned you could do. Works better for flat walls, but it does make it a nice, interesting kind of look on the outside here that I actually enjoy. I might end up incorporating that into more of my angled buildings too. But yeah, it makes it nice, little kind of decorated piece. And I'll just add in some more of these little portions here to make it look like an actual window. Now to get onto the roof, you use one of these building platforms. You can just jump up or you can use stairs, but with the lower degree roof, you're able to stand on it. If the higher degree one, you have to build some more of these support structures or just use a ladder. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and throw in another one of these longer pieces between the poles that I already installed earlier, just so I know where my perfect square is going to be. Off the edges of these, I'm going to go ahead and build the smaller riser pillar so I can build my roof off. Now I got my 4 elevated pieces, and see, it's not snapping in perfectly like I want it to. One thing you can do is just add in another one of these longer pieces, and now you actually will be able to attach the roof to that piece. So I'll just go back and delete that one square block because I don't want it there, just to give it a little more ventilation. That's how I like to make the roof look. You can raise it up higher, change it up however you like. This is just, the way I like to build. Try and show you here how this looks with the smoke buildup. But you can actually stay in here. You can put a bed, crafting table, all that stuff, and you won't get smoked out. Now here, what I like to do sometimes is actually build downstairs to the fire, and that's just so I can add some cooking spits and all that stuff, so I can actually excessively cook the meat and all that stuff. And in order to actually make this piece completely square up to the stairs here, the piece that's directly to the side there, you'll see when I actually start building, but actually push it right there, so that way that makes it flush. Now it's perfect flat. With on the sides there, you can perfectly go down the stairs. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and attempt to build kind of angled wall around this fire pit, so you don't immediately sprint inside and run off the edge into the fire pit, which I've done a handful of times. And the only issue with this building inside is sometimes with all the floor pieces there, you flip onto the other ones to try and build off of, and it makes it look extremely weird. And for me, this was just trial and error to try and figure out what I was doing wrong. So there, I realized my mistake. Now I start building off of the block pieces themselves instead of trying to build off the floor, which I was trying to do at first. I just got frustrated and was like, I'm starting over. There's no problem to do, just because, you do get all your building materials back when you're building stuff with wood. I haven't experimented with stone yet. I haven't gotten that far in the game. I do know that some of the other things, like the portals and whatnot, once you start breaking those down, you only get a handful of the materials back. Now all I'm going to do here is I'm actually just going to build up some of these spots where I think that it should have some more structural integrity, because just having that arched roof isn't, I feel, feasible. So I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these longer pole pieces just to make it look more, I guess, accurate building wise. Here I was having an issue, so I actually went ahead and just attached the shorter pole, and then same thing I did here is I held down shift and just kind of phased through the object so I could actually have it attached to the roof. There you guys have it. That's the style which I build my circular style buildings. This one is more of an oval shape just because of that two-piece entrance. I feel it makes it look a little bit better, get a little bit more extra building room. But hopefully you guys enjoy. Please like and subscribe, and if you'd like more Valheim content, make sure to comment down below. Thanks and have a great day.